Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And we've had a few hits this week, another hit. So we're recording, and I have with me again beautiful Amanda Bass, the SRA expert of South Africa, who I'm so blessed and privileged to have and be chatting to for however long we need to be revealing what we're revealing. So thank you so much for tuning in. And Amanda, welcome and thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Chantal. Thank you. It's a blessing to be with you. Nice to see that you've been swimming.
Yes, you can see it's been so hot today. So I was out and about on the beach and my hair is like something. Okay, well, at the I love my purple hat anyway. So
Looks good. Looks good.
Yeah, thank you. So last week we were speaking about DID, dissociative identity disorder, which is very, very interesting. And I love that as well. And then we're moving on to what is SRA, which is satanic ritual abuse. But I know this week we're going to be talking a little bit about the dynamics of memory, understanding what Neshamah is, or understanding Neshamah. And then if we have time, okay, then we're going to go between also chatting about the difference between the mind and the brain. And then if we can, still this week, we'll go on to what are the satanic ritual abuse, the programming. But if we don't have time for that, we'll certainly do it the next time. So I'm really, really, really grateful that you are here to be able to shed some light on these horrible topics, but so necessary at this time for us to understand. Wow, but what a crazy time, right? What is happening in this world? What's happening right now? I mean, just was it 2 or 3 days ago, suddenly Russia and Ukraine at each other. But how funny is this? Because we're seeing videos all over of pictures all over of stuff that's been reprinted or old photographs and the same faces. A journalist was killed in, I can't remember, somewhere else, and the same one is now in Ukraine. I actually saw a video about these crisis actors earlier on.
That's right.
They're filming them. They're filming crisis actors. They're making them run with exactly like they are in the Ukraine, with their little animals and screaming and shouting down streets. What a crazy time. I mean, we're clearly being diverted. What's your opinion on that before we get into the other stuff? I'd love to just touch on that with you.
Well, you know, Chantal, I think the last session we had together was when we were talking with Dr. Zandre, and we were saying, you know, that everything is about deception. And if they can trick us and lie to us and trick the masses, and they think the masses are so stupid, you know, and that's what's happening. So it's again trickery. So they get actors to now acting this thing out, but there's actually another agenda. Totally. So all the time it's a diversion from what's really going down, you know. So yeah, it's again just deception and trickery. But you know what is amazing is that there's so many platforms, there's so many eyes. People aren't stupid. People have woken up.
Yeah, in a major way. I'm loving that.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just having a little bit of a chat off air as well. And I was also stressing or saying to you how frustrated I sometimes get. And I know it's really not good to get frustrated. So I really have to breathe myself through that and remind myself that, you know, there's been such mind control over decades and decades and decades, subtle mind control through the media, through television, through magazines. You know, people really are walking around with eyes wide shut and they're sucking the stuff in, hook, line, and sinker. Thank God I'm just grateful I'm not one of those that buys the stuff. I mean, when this whole Russia-Ukraine thing blew up, I was like, come on, what's going on? And then someone withdrew a meme with a little spiky thing, I don't want to say its name, out the door, and then this missile coming in the other, like a rotating door, you know? Suddenly Trudeau is gone. Suddenly the truckers are gone. Suddenly the spiky thing is gone. And now suddenly it's this Russian Ukraine thing. And it was so funny. I said, what next are we going to be diverted from? And someone put this little meme of the aliens. Next is the aliens. And then the aliens standing there. And then you see them. It's like standing in the side windows. And they're going, we're up next, guys. I got to sound bloody nervous. So if the aliens are up next, you got to know we've been expecting them.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That was so funny. I must have had a good chuckle with that.
It's absolutely a stage of the world, you know, because we were in the West, you know, with the truckers and all of that. And the next minute, now we're in the East. So it's just, it's just playing around, you know, it's
crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Anyway, let us just pray and hope that enough of us are seeing the light right now.
Yeah.
So that we don't get sucked into this nonsense, hook, line, and sinker, because again, you know, it's this crisis control, it's this fear mongering. And of course, we know that when people get so caught up in fear, their light gets sucked out of them.
Yeah.
And that's exactly when these entities and these dark ones can do what the heck they like. Yeah. We really just have to see what's going on. Got to stay in our light, got to stay aligned, got to keep praying, got to keep connected. And then we'll be fine, I think, you know.
Yeah.
It's a crazy time. I mean, we all die, right? But I just don't want to die, you know, at the mercy of someone else's joke. I'm not, I refuse to die as part of their joke. I'm sorry, that I won't be doing.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah, well, the Bible says, you know, our days are numbered by the Lord. So I don't want to go before my time. I'm going to go when God has numbered my days. And that's it, you know, not to be robbed.
Exactly. I agree. And you put it quite correctly there and very succinctly. I don't want to be robbed. And I refuse to be robbed of my time. Yeah. I'm going to make the most of it. I love life on this earth. It's very entertaining right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's talk about the stuff they're really trying to divert us from. Because if we think about it, and we know, those of us who are with the eyes to see, we know that this is the stuff they truly are trying to divert us from. The evil that exists with our children, the child transportation, the mind games and control and stuff. Sorry, I'm just very careful what words I use nowadays because with so many strikes and things, but I think we all know what we're talking about. You know, this is the stuff they're truly trying to divert us from, because if the world knew about these horrors, then it would be a very different story. And this is the thing that I think most people can't actually look at. They can't imagine that this is going on and has been going on for so long, right under our noses.
Yeah.
I mean, if I know someone who's a strong Christian, and I said to her the other day, we were talking about this, and she was, and she said to me, and I said to her, do you know that we are governed by the Luciferians? She goes, no, I don't believe you. Gets up and walks out and goes to the bathroom. I was like,
wow.
Anyway, this is what's happening. So sorry, I just wanted to mention that because I think it is important.
It's always the church people that are the last to find out, you know, because they've hidden it. And specifically in the church, it's been hidden so well. So it's time that, and the thing is, you know, I've been in this game for such a long time, and you know, in the beginning we used to just whisper about this, and now at least things are opening up more with Chantal around, you know. So
well, lots of us around at the moment. I must say, I'm very blessed to be somehow a forerunner in our country to provide a platform. I had no idea that I was. It was never my intention to do that. It just so happened that God opened this path for me, and I'm loving it. And I'm loving the people I'm meeting, such as yourself, such as Dr. Zandra as well, just in our country, never mind everywhere else, Jessie and the Australians. I love this group of particularly warrior women. Yeah. This is really our battle, isn't it? We're waxing it right now. We just like taking it and we just slaying whatever we need to. And I'm loving it. So it's such a pleasure. And I'm so grateful to have come across you. And you must be delighted because, as you say, you've been in this game for so long. And as you say, whispering about it for many, many years. And now people are talking, people are stepping up, they're stepping out. Yeah. They move out of their fear. People are believing them. They're not locking them away in asylums and things anymore for being crazy and given all sorts of medicines and reprogramming and stuff like that. But they can't. So there really is a beautiful rise of the light right now. And I'm loving it. So again, I say thank you to you. And I mean, you must be delighted. So I'm very delighted to be a rookie in your army.
Waited many years for this. Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Tell us about the dynamics of memory and understanding the Neshamah. I'm very, very interested in what your topic is about tonight as well.
Okay. I think, it's going to put some arsenal in the weapons and make us more effective. So that's the whole purpose, is just to train and equip and then send forth so that more people can be set free. So the last time we were together, Chantal, we spoke about DID and just what it is and how the mind, can't handle trauma. And so it's a whole thing about trauma. And then the normal DID. So, I mean, your street children, the guys in prison, all that type of thing. There's the DID stuff, which is dissociative identity disorder. The old term is the multiple personality or split personality. So that is when there's not a definite, like a planned blueprint, going down on a person, like with SRA, satanic ritual abuse. It's where you have multiple persons involved, but they are trained and they actually know what they're doing and they're doing it on purpose. Whereas your normal household trauma, a dad that drinks and abuses and a rape that takes place and that type of thing, your mind splits because you can't handle the trauma. But it's there. You don't eventually have a handler, at the end. Maybe you are abused for many years and you just don't speak about it because they have a way to make you keep quiet. But SRA is a different ballgame. So I want to do a bridge in between to take everybody along so that there's no gap. So I'm going to share screen and let's have a look. There we go. Okay. I want to talk about the dynamics of memory. So you're okay. You can see everything's clear.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. So what I want us to look at is narrative memory is what they refer to as normal memory. Why I want to do this is because many times people say, now you've got a person sitting in front of you. They're telling you they're starting to have memories bleed through. They talk about bleed through of being raped, but they don't know when it happened. They haven't got a clue. They don't have anything else to go on. And then they say to you, but how's that possible? If you've been raped, of course you'll know. And now I want to explain to you why they don't know. So we first got to look at what is normal memory, what is narrative memory, the ordinary memory pathways. And so memory that's put into language and is made up made a part of one's total life experience. For example, before we came online, you and I had a chat. And if somebody asks me, so what did you and Chantal talk about? I have a memory to tell them we spoke about this or this or this. That's normal memory. So how does normal memory work in my life. And I'm going to make it easy, and I'm going to make it very simple. It looks complicated, but I'm going to break it down to make it easy. So the memory organs that we have is the thalamus. And so I've made it green. And then I've made the amygdala pink, because I've also made her feminine. She's very excitable. It's all emotions. You know, us girls are very good at this one. And then we've got the hippocampus. He's a guy. Okay, so it's just a bit of a play to make it easy, so that we don't look as though we're all medical and then everybody blanks out and says, no, wait, this is too much. So I'm really making it easy. So these are the three parts of the brain that form normal memory. All right, so we start off, the memory comes in through the your physical senses. So through your 5 senses, your sensory organs, the sight, the hearing, the touch, the taste, the smell, all comes. That's how any memory starts to enter into your body, and then of course the brain. So this is how it starts. This is how I receive physical data. It starts off with the thalamus. So the thalamus gets hit with a whole lot of data, information. So it's like a computer. Data is coming in and starts to, okay, I'm getting all of this information now. Maybe for the first time I'm learning about narrative memory. And so I am now starting to make a file in my head. What is narrative memory? Because maybe this is the first time I'm hearing it. Then it goes to the next part of the brain, which is called the amygdala. Made her pink because she's this girl that's full of emotions. And she then checks out all the information that's coming in, and she assesses it emotionally. Is it safe? Is it not safe? Is it scary? Do I need to run? Can I stay? You know, and so the whole time she is checking things out. And then she passes on the information to the hippocampus. We're going to call him Hippo. And he organizes. He's a major organizer, and he's got a library full of files. And then he takes the data and he starts putting them into files and starts filing it in the prefrontal cortex part, organizes and records the data. Okay, this is what's going on. Chantal has got a purple hat on, and she's got a purple bottle behind her. And so Hippo starts opening up a file, and he puts all this information into the file. So this is how normal memory works. And then, of course, it goes to the prefrontal cortex, which I then live from. So it's my conscious mind. I can now afterwards tell somebody, okay, this is what we spoke about. This is what was covered. And so this is the pathway of normal memory. All right. So sensory, it comes in through the 5 senses. The thalamus collects all the information. Amygdala, she starts to, assesses, is it safe? Is it okay? Can I learn this? Is it interesting? Hippo puts it into files, and then it comes to my prefrontal cortex, and I can then tell the story. All right, so now the hippocampus is like a massive internal library. So you can just think how he's been working his butt off, because all the information of all the years of your life, everything gets recorded, everything gets stored. And nothing gets missed. So it's like a computer recording everything since the moment of conception. When the sperm and the ovum come together, there is memory, and that it gets recorded. And so for the first 6 months of your life, it is your spirit man that records it. And from then, your subconscious mind starts to function. All right, so here we have amygdala. She is this very busy secretary, and she's just assessing all the information, and she passes it on to Hippo. And Hippo, watch him. He is absolutely overwhelmed. He's got to type as fast as he can. He's freaking out with all the stuff.
So typical. I have to just add, yeah, sorry, so typical from the girl to the boy.
Yeah.
I love it.
So you've got Hippo that is now typing like crazy because he's got to make the files, and he's got to sort out all of the stuff that he's hearing tonight. I mean, this is absolutely maybe the first time knowing how a brain works, you know, and how these things work, and what's DID and what's SRA, and it's crazy. So where do I put it? I've got to find a file. All right, so that's the function that you need to remember. Amy that freaks out because if she's afraid, she freaks out. And then Hippo that's typing like crazy because he is making files of everything that Amy is telling him. All right, so now again, we've got Amy, the big pink circle, and then we've got Hippo, and then the prefrontal cortex. So let's have a look at Amy. So something happens tonight. We come online and there's a little arousal. Okay, there's Amanda, there's Chantal. I know how Zoom works, and it's familiar, it's expected, it's uninteresting. There's little arousal. Amy's not super excited. No, I know Zoom. I know how these, okay, it's fine. And so what happens to Hippo, she passes on a little bit of information. He records just a little bit, and it goes to the prefrontal cortex. Then we have increased arousal. Okay, now we started talking about Ukraine. Now she starts setting up, okay, oh no, they're saying it's actors. So where's the real war, you know? So this is interesting. It's important events. I mean, it's worldwide events. So who do we believe? You know, we can't believe media. So how do I get the information? So Amy's sitting up, and now she's passing on to Hippo. And so if this is the first time you hear this news, up until now, you thought there's a real war going on and things are happening there. Now there's a new file. Wait, there are actors going on here. There's something different going on here. So Hippo opens a first file, and he says, right, Ukrainian war, actors. That's what he records. So he creates a new file, decreased quantity and quality of record, because it's the first time you hear it. And that's why, as a teacher, you will hear me repeat, listen again. It's because the more you hear it, the more quantity and quality you are receiving of the information. So Chantal, you've heard a lot of stories, and in the beginning it was like, oh, whoa, Hippo, you know, in your mind just freaked out, and he was recording like crazy. But now that you've got, you know, more information, you are able to record more accurately. You've got it under your belt. You know what's going on, and that is the whole job of Hippo. All right, our next one is when you've heard it before, now you've already got a file, and you're just adding to the established file. And that's why you can take in more. And so it's important to, if you hear things for the first time, re-listen, stop and listen, take notes, you know, just repeat, because that's how your brain works. That's how it functions. All right, then, Amy, increased arousal, unusual, unexpected, frightening events. So along the way, you are telling me, Amanda, you know, I came back from the beach, and there was this accident that took place. It's not something I see every day. These cars just smashed each other on the bridge or whatever, and so, okay, there's now increased arousal. So Amy's super awake. It's unusual, unexpected, frightening. And so she gives the information to Hippo, and it's recorded with accuracy. And that's why the police, when you have to be a witness of something you've seen, and you were there, and it was shocking, your report back of the incident is very accurate, because you were super alerted. Amy was giving a lot of information, but very clear information through, And Hippo recorded it very accurately, and it went to the prefrontal cortex. Now, when it comes to abuse, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to excessive arousal, like rape, like really, really some big problems, what happens? It's highly traumatic, it's overwhelming, it's terrifying. So Amy, a typical woman, when she gets hit with this, she passes out. She gives no information to Hippo. Hippo doesn't make a file. Hippo, it gets recorded at another place, not with Hippo. There's no file. There's no recall. That's why people can't tell you, I've been raped and this happened and this happened and this happened. Because the minute you are overwhelmed, the information, Amy totally passes out, freaks out. She doesn't pass it on to Hippo. So it doesn't follow the normal pathway. And so Hippo doesn't even record it. But what happens, it goes into neural pathways. It bypasses, and it gets stored in the body the information of what happened to you gets stored as emotions and as physical sensations. And so what the person reports to you is, I'm having nightmares, I'm having eating disorders, I'm cutting myself, I'm drinking too much, I'm on drugs, I'm on prescription drugs. That's all signs of trauma. And so because there's nothing, and then you say, but can you tell me what happened? No, I don't remember. I can't tell you what happened. Why? Because Hippo didn't record it. It didn't follow the normal pathway, but it digressed, and it bypassed Hippo, and it was stored as raw emotions. And all I know is that I have panic attacks, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm having all this freaking stuff happening to me, and I don't know why. I'm out of control. I don't know what to tell you. And so the normal counseling way is not working because there's nothing to tell. I cannot remember. And so this is what I felt was so important for people to understand. That
Can I ask you, if you don't mind me just chiming in here, these highly traumatic events, would it be mainly when it happens with children? Obviously, I understand it will happen with children. Often when they've been obviously, and I'm not talking SRA or mind control because that's a deliberate thing. I'm just talking, let's say, about a father raping his daughter, or a child being beaten and kidnapped or something like that. So I understand that as a child, that would automatically happen. Is it common in adults, teenagers, etc., as well, that Amy would not pass that info onto Hippo? Makes a lot of sense because, you know, when we're just looking at, and I'm trying to also just find the correlation here, when we're looking at our shame and our guilt and stuff, how many women who have been, for example, raped won't talk about it, and they do not want a man near them. You know what I'm saying? I find that very interesting, how this is also working as well. So they don't want to talk about it. They might remember, but they're just not prepared to actually talk about the event to anyone because they would feel it's their fault, or their skirt was too short, or they had too much to drink, or they should never have gone home with that guy, or whatever the case might have been, you know. I deal with a lot of that and have as well. So I'm just interested to know.
At what age?
Yes, how does that actually work with the ages?
This is normally before the age of 7.
Okay.
Then that's the trauma, you know, that you don't Hippo doesn't have a file. If the person actually remembers the event, it means that Hippo did get the information. So the brain was mature enough to actually pass on the information. There is a memory bank. There is a file.
Okay.
But if there's no file, I can't remember. You know, it can be that you regress. You know, you've just pushed it under. You've just pushed the whole memory under, and then you just can't put your finger on it, but something triggers it and it pops up.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that isn't the same as DID. Yeah. So DID is the first 7 years of your life. That's when they form the actual DID SRA. But if it's later, then your brain is mature enough to actually record. You know, and it could, I'm going to explain the difference now. What is regression, you know, pushing it down, and what is DID. I'm going to explain that also in pictures. So here it is, repression, there we've got it. So there's the trauma. You've got the victim, and you've got the victimizer, and you've got the black line in the middle is the subconscious mind. And so this is just where the whole memory gets pushed under. I was ministering at a whole group of ladies, and I was doing the signs and symptoms of sexual abuse. And this lady came to me in the tea break, and she said to me, Amanda, I can tick every box. Everything is me. But I wasn't raped. I have absolutely no memory of what happened to me whatsoever. But I can tick the boxes. All the symptoms are there. Then I said to her, let's pray. And will you give God permission to actually open up the lid and see what's inside? What happened to you? And she said, yes, I want to know, because my marriage has suffered. You know, it's just been horrible. I don't allow my husband near me. Sex has just been absolutely a burden my whole life. And, you know, I've robbed him and I've robbed myself. And I just want to get to the bottom of this. So she prayed, we prayed together, and she went back to her seat. So I carried on with the ministry and shared more signs and symptoms and things. And the next thing, she just started screaming. It was so horrific for her just to now suddenly have this opened up, and she saw exactly what had happened to her. And this is what happened when she was a little girl. She was playing on a sports field, and her ball rolled near the sports hut, you know, where they put all the sports equipment. And as she ran to get the ball, a man came out of the hut, and he said to her, oh, you want your ball? And he had the ball in the hand. And he said, come and get it. And of course, as a little girl, she walked to him. And in the memory, she's seeing, she had the little dress that she had on. She's seeing everything. She's seeing the man. She's seeing the ball. She's seeing exactly what happened, which she had taken the memory and completely just suppressed it. So it's an automatic psychological defense, painful event that is forgotten and stored in totality. So there it is. She stored that whole memory in totality. So when it came back up and she remembered it, she could remember all the detail, the dress, the man, the ball, the sports field. And then when she went closer, he raped her. And she saw in the memory, she saw the little dress full of blood. She saw her underwear torn, the pain. She had the emotional memory as well as the visual memory. Everything just came up in one go. And that's when she fell off the chair and she just screamed and cried and cried. And as it was coming forward, it was just coming out. And, you know, afterwards we had a session with her and we could just deal with it and have it all just taken away. And, you know, she could get the healing. So this is a repressed memory. It's the whole memory that gets pushed under in your subconscious mind, like underwater, in the subconscious mind. And when you remember it through a trigger, something going on, she gave God permission, he opened it up, and the whole memory came, and she could tell the story. All right, that's repression. And now
I'm just sorry, if I can just chime in again.
Sure.
Can you imagine how traumatic it is for a child who is taken by his or her parents, right? And because a child automatically trusts their parents completely, and not just on one occasion, but over and over and over and over and over. I mean, I can't imagine how some of these women and men that you deal with and that I've dealt with over the past little while actually manage.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Well, she'd had so many years wasted, you know, stuck, locked up, emotionally can't give herself, you know, her husband is frustrated. I mean, you can just think the children the mother can't really connect because, you know, this is locked up inside, and she couldn't remember it because it happened before the age of 7. So she just pushed that whole memory down under, you know, in her subconscious mind. Okay, so now let's look at the difference. What is dissociation? So we've got the same perpetrator, the same little guy, the victim, the victimizer, and then the subconscious mind. So what happens here is now the memory gets split up into separate boxes. It's not the whole memory that goes under, and when it gets triggered, the whole memory comes up and I can tell the story. With dissociation, you can tell a piece of the puzzle. I've got a glimpse of a naked guy, a naked man. I have a glimpse of a ball, but I can't put the two together because there's you hear what I'm saying? It's in boxes.
And it's funny because let's say the ball was green. And let's say every time they might see a green ball or something, or a yellow ball, whatever, something will trigger and they'll have some kind, but they can't quite make that association.
Fear, panic, you know, and don't know why. Why am I in this state of panic? Okay, so what happens then is that in dissociation, you have different parts of that one little guy now splits the memory into different parts. And it's because it's something that's happened maybe repeatedly. And so if it happened once, the walls are very thin and you are able to deal with it much easier. But the more you have, if it's happened repeatedly, and that's what happens with SRA, you know, they repeated the trauma over and over. And so they split then. So you have a part of his humanity that is handling the fear. And so that part, if it sees the green ball, fear, and I don't know why, then there's a feeling of helplessness. And that's normally those that are depressed and they're just sitting there and they're just crying and they don't know why. They don't know why. They have no recollection of anything that has taken place. Another part of their humanity is very angry. And I mean, you can have somebody who's born again and really is a Christian and following God and all these good things, but you have this part that swears like crazy, you know, that gets triggered and suddenly they swear and, oh, I'm not supposed to swear. I'm supposed to be, you know, this goody Christian and what's going on with me. And so they don't understand it's an emotional roller coaster all the way. It's an emotional roller coaster. And it's because of all the trauma that's locked up. And then you've got a part of their humanity that's in pain. And then you've got the components. So you've got the mind, the way the mind deals with trauma and DID, dissociative identity disorder, is it starts to build walls between the different parts of humanity. And so fear doesn't know about pain, and helplessness doesn't know about anger, and And so they don't know about each other, and they can't share memories because each one is carrying their own little bit of the trauma. And so that they can't even share. And so when we start with ministry, we've got to start, praying around co-consciousness so that the walls can start coming down, and that they start speaking, that those parts of humanity can start speaking to each other and can start sharing information. And eventually when fear tells his part of the story, and anger tells his part of the story, and pain, they all tell their parts of the story, we can now piece together this puzzle of what really happened. Tell me the story. And that is why therapy takes time. You cannot just pull these walls down. A person will freak out. They can't handle it. It's just too much. And so you've got to go, you've got to go step by step. You've got to go slowly. You've got to understand the trauma. You've got to start working with the different parts. So we normally start trying to speak to kitty parts, because the kitty parts blab a lot. So they tell the story. Yeah.
I love that.
That are arrested in development way back, they 5 years old. Or I remember one day I had to, we were in a church, the place was packed, there was a visiting speaker, and anyway, afterwards they had an invitation and they asked people to come forward for prayer, and suddenly this girl started manifesting wildly. She fell to the ground and started to go like her body, the way her body went, it was unreal. It was like a serpent. And she tried to get to the plug at the wall to put her fingers in the socket so that she could shock, it's always death. The minute you start working with them, and they SRA, specifically SRA, and there are parts that are programmed to kill themselves. So there are suicidal programs. What happens the minute they start coming out, they're not supposed to come out. And so the next program that will kick in is kill yourself. So she went like a serpent, and there were about 8 guys trying to hold her down. They couldn't hold her. She was so strong, obviously charged with demonic, and got to the plug, and they pulled her away, and tried to, and then she slips away and off she goes again. And eventually they just said, look, we don't know what's going on here. We bind the demons, we rebuke the demon. Nothing's working. So I said, I was watching this, and I said, would you mind giving me a chance with her? They said, sure, if you can do something with her. So yes, she's under the chairs, and she's still, going like an animal, and people are petrified, and they don't know what's going on. And all it is the angry part trying to look very brave and very strong to tell people, back off, leave me alone. So I climb in under the chairs, and I go lie next to, with my face right into her face. And I look at her and I say, how old are you? And the next thing she switches, and this little child comes out, and she starts sucking her thumb. And I said, you're very afraid of these uncles, aren't you? She said, yeah. So I said, but we can help you. And I just spoke very calmly and quietly, got her out there, and she'd switched into a part that we could work with. And these guys were standing looking at this, because in those days, it wasn't well known that it's not just demons, because that's the sad thing, Chantel, is if the counselors are not trained and they are treating a DID person as though everything's a demon, they are causing abuse in the name of Jesus. And you, as the Christian counselor, you becoming a perpetrator.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they traumatized her out of her wits, and they didn't know what they were doing. And that's why we are trying to get Christian counselors to get trained up and to understand the stuff and to know what they're doing. As I said to you, I think on the last time we were together, I said to you, we hardly minister in inner healing anymore, just normal inner healing, you know, that repression. Because the trauma has so increased in the world, we are dealing with DID on all levels. And of course, there's a scale, you know, there's a scale. So you're going to have those that just have very thin walls, and then you're going to have the extreme SRA that's really seriously, you know, got the walls as thick as can be, and you've got to really know what you're doing. So this is so important to understand. Okay, so dissociation is a defense mechanism. So people need to understand there are demons involved. Each one of those parts are demonized. The fear, you know, not all the time, but they can be demonized. So there can be an entity attached to the fear. That means the fear is going to be excessive, you know, or the anger is going to be Lucifer's anger. And that means it's going to be excessive. They can't handle it. They can kill when they're so angry. So what we need to know is that dissociation is a defense mechanism that God has given to children. And when life becomes too traumatic, he has given them this amazing gift. And so the thing is just that if you grow up with the DID, SRA, and you've been split and all of this stuff has been put in place and you become an adult, what happens is that you continue to dissociate as an adult. So you will get into a job situation and they will expect you to say, for example, take photographs. You now become a reporter, you know. Oh yeah, I can do it. I mean, they're very talented and very gifted. But meantime, they haven't done any photography or anything like that, but they create a part that's a photographer. And they go. That is why they are super clever, because if their IQ was not so high, they'll die. If they get, you know, exposed to so much trauma, and normally, you know, I'm talking SRA world, if they get exposed to so much trauma and they cannot create parts to handle the trauma, they die. And so it's the brilliant children that actually go through, because they see that they are creative and they can create parts for any situation.
Yeah. And that's what they're looking for, right? That's why so often when we're seeing these survivors now and these overcomers, they are super intelligent. Super intelligent people. Absolutely. And no doubt these are the ones that they've pushed them, traumatized them to the absolute hilt, and they've found ways to get through that. Wow, insane. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And so in their adult life, they can dissociate into whatever part you want, you know, so they continue to do that. So what also can happen is they start, you know, they get addicted to drugs or alcohol. If not, some of them are pure and they're not allowed to, you know, it just depends on their ranking in the cult. But they're not allowed to use drugs, they're not allowed to use alcohol, or they go into isolation. They're very lonely people because nobody understands them, and they get ostracized, you know. It's because people think they're freaky, they're weird. And so they get pushed aside. And then this can be, as an adult, very destructive if they continue dissociating, because what happens is it's going to hinder the person from dealing with mature adult issues like marriage or a friendship. Yeah. And so they keep on breaking. They have a track record of broken relationships.
Self-sabotage. So they keep sabotaging.
Absolutely.
Friendships or relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. So they don't mature. They don't get to a place of maturity. And that is the negative if you continue with dissociation as an adult. And that is why God gives it to you as a child. And it's a gift. It's really, really a gift. And so but when you're an adult and you continue dissociating, you're not going to be able to function as a mature adult dealing with relationships and the normal life. So the same dissociation that helped a child survive when they were small can be very destructive when they get older.
Yeah,
and
totally.
That is why you have the older person coming, well, the 20, 30-year-old that comes for help because that they're starting to see their wheels come off, and they're just not coping. They're just not coping. So it's not good to keep on with dissociation as an adult. You need help to start getting all your parts together, and God gives you the grace. When you're small, he gives you the grace to stay dissociated because that's how you can cope. That's the only way you can cope in life. But when you're grown up, now he says, it's time. Let's deal with this. I give you the grace to deal with the different parts. And so if they continue to dissociate, this keeps them from being truly connected to their own real feelings, and it prevents them from experiencing true intimacy with themselves, other people, and God.
Yeah.
And so DID is not a disorder, it's a gift. And the Lord created us in his image, and we creative people, and it's a wonderful way of the way that our brain works. He enables one to create people and hiding places within yourself in order to survive many traumas. It's absolutely fascinating what the mind has done. One of the, if a little child is being held down, and I mean, it's by a big, strong, strapping guy, and they being pushed down, they can't move and they can't escape. They can't run away. So what do? They escape inside. Yeah. They run away inside.
Exactly.
And so they would escape their body while he's raping. They escape their body and they sit on the ceiling and they watch. And, so they learn to escape the body. And the big thing is many of the parts of that little boy that I only showed 4 parts. So it was a very simple way of trying to describe what DID is. But a lot of the parts of the people you're working with are outside the body. They're not even in the body. So you have to call them back to the body. So wherever they've escaped to and whatever jobs they're doing, wherever, you've got to get them back to the body.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that healing can be there. And
exactly.
So DID is perhaps the most creative and intelligent coping mechanism and survival techniques that humans are capable of creating. It's absolutely fascinating. So, yeah. And it's a gift from God, just so that we can handle life when we get, handed a bad deal.
Absolutely.
All right, so what we see, I'm just going to run through some symptoms, Chantal, just so that people can see, okay,
please do, yes, please do.
All right, so there's memory or time loss. Like, oh, what did I do today? My whole day's gone and I can't even remember what I did. Where was I? What did I do? And then meantime, they've been very busy doing things, but they can't remember. They hear voices, but it's voices inside. It's not voices outside. It's voices inside. History of headaches, because with the switching, it causes migraine headaches. Changes in handwriting. The younger generation of today, they don't have these symptoms. These are the older people, the older generation. And so the younger generation, they don't say, okay, I don't know what I did with my day. They said, no, I've been coping the whole day. I've been here. I'm fine. They'll have headaches. Migraine is always the one that they struggle with. And changes in handwriting, everybody types on the computers nowadays. So that's also, not always a symptom. Frequent changing of clothing. So they'll stand in front of the cupboard and not know what to wear. put this on. No. Then they hear, no, 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 that's not right. Put this on. And then they go through about 5 different sets of clothing, and nobody's happy because you're not putting on what I told you to put on. And so they have this, indecisiveness. I can't make up my mind what to wear. I'm standing in front of a cupboard and I don't know what to wear. A sense of deprivation. I've been robbed. Inordinate desire to please others. I just want to be accepted because I've been so rejected. I've been so wounded. I've been so misunderstood. And so they go out of their way to please you. So what do? When they come for counseling, they create a part that will give you all the answers you want. So they read you as a counselor, read you very carefully, and then they'll create a part that comes for counseling. And then they give you what you want. So, I mean, that's part of the deception.
And the manipulation. Absolutely.
Yeah, they get trained to do that. As a child, they get rewarded. If they can trick someone, they get rewarded. Well done. That's excellent. Whereas a normal child, I remember with my little children walking into the shop, and I would make them walk with their hands behind their back because they would want to touch everything. And especially in the sweetie row, where all the sweeties are and the packets burst open, then they want to load the sweets. And I say, no, you put it back. Put your hands behind your back. So it's the way we teach them to have integrity and to be honest and not to lie and not to steal, all these things. But in the cult, they encourage you to do those things, to be deceptive, to sin.
Yeah.
Because then you're strong, you're very good. They're intelligent and creative, super creative. They've got a highly developed imagination, a desire to play or to collect stuffed animals. That's very interesting. So they've got little bears. So I always have soft toys around if we are counseling, just so that if there's a bad memory, then they've got something to cuddle. There's always a toy to cuddle. It just comforts the little ones. Emotions are disconnected from cognitive thoughts. So, of course, you don't know why I've got panic attacks, or I've got all these emotions, but I can't remember. I can't tell you what happened. And then a history of depression or suicidal behavior, suicidal thoughts, abusive relationship in adulthood. So that could be where you marry a guy that beats you. So that could be another handler in your life, another perpetrator in your life. You draw, spirit draws spirit. So if you have a victim spirit, if you are a victim, you're going to draw a perpetrator to victimize you.
Yep,
and,
totally.
And then also you become a victimizer, so then you can abuse your children as well. And then phobia or panic attacks, strong attacks of shame. Shame is the big thing. They really go for shame. And that's how they get you to shut up, so that you don't talk about it, is if they shame you. And then substance abuse, history of nightmares and sleeplessness. I can't sleep. The one guy said to me, Amanda, I wish I could just turn off the switch because my head is just going all the time. I've just got, everybody's talking in my head. I wish I could find the off switch. Just tell them, shut up. He says, especially when he goes down to sleep, that's when they really want to talk. Self-mutilation or self-injury. So they burn themselves with an iron, or they cut themselves, whatever it is that to hurt themselves. Anorexia or bulimia, sexual difficulty. So those are just a few of the symptoms of DID. And of course, when we get to the SRA, we're going to get to some more serious symptoms. Here's the mind versus the brain. And this is just interesting. I'm just popping this in between to explain. There's a difference between the brain and the mind. Now, people don't ever think about that, and they use them interchangeably. And then they say, oh, my mind this or my brain that. But it's two different entities that we're talking about here. And it's important to understand that. And the mind is your intelligence. We know the brain is the gray matter. And we know that if there's a brain injury, like if a mommy was drinking, and so she's got, and she's pregnant, then she causes that alcohol fetal syndrome on the baby. And so that's gray matter. That's the gray matter, but that's not the mind. Okay, so the mind is intelligence, and the mind connects with the brain. This is so interesting, at the very top of the brain stem. Now, I want to just quickly give you the story about how they found this. The medical world have done a lot of trying to get to how the body works. So years ago, when they started to look at the brain to find out what part of the brain works the fingers, what part of the brain works the toes, what part of the brain, how does my body function with my brain? So they decided, okay, they're going to strap a person down, but the person has to be awake. So they find a victim, a subject. And this is recorded in medical books in the history of medicine. So they would tie a person down, open up the skull, and then with a scalpel, little by little, they start to dissect. And then and then they have an artist who's sitting there drawing the brain and drawing where they're working. Where's that little piece dissected from? And then the person has to say, okay, I don't feel my fingers anymore. Then they know, okay, it's that part of the brain. That is how brain knowledge came. That's how the neurosurgeons and everybody got the information, because, I mean, there wasn't equipment to scan and, to do it another way. That's how they did it. So this one person that they were working with, it's horrific. Hey, you're just thinking, how did they do it? So they've got this person strapped down, they've got the artist, and that's what Hitler also did. Joseph Mengele, whenever he dissected the people that he'd killed, because he worked with twins, and then he would keep the one twin and kill the other twin, and then he would they would open up and see what was going on. He would always have an artist that was sitting there that had to draw everything that they saw in the body. And so with this, they had the artist that was drawing the brain, and to show, how they were cutting and what was happening to the person. So then they cut another little piece and then say, okay, I don't feel my ears anymore. Cut another little piece. All right, there goes my toes. And so little by little, they dissected the whole brain, little pieces at a time, and plotted the body to say, okay, that part of the brain is connected to this part of the body, until they got to the brain stem, and they were just about ready to cut the last little layer where the brain is connected to the brain stem. There are 300 cells. And at the top of the brain stem, that is the thalamus. Now, we've just seen the role of the thalamus. And just before they were about to cut that last bit off, a voice spoke out of this person and said, don't do it. If you do it, the person will be an animal, a vegetable. And so they realized that they'd come to the spot of where the brain and that which makes the person human resides, at the 300 cells that's at the top of the brain stem. Okay, so this small group of cells connects the mind and the brain, creating consciousness. And that's what makes you human. So that is the connecting point of the gray matter with you as a human being. Isn't that fascinating?
Very. I mean, I'm absolutely enthralled. I'm loving this is like the most incredibly interesting biology lesson I've ever been to. So I'm loving this.
Hallelujah. That's good. That's good.
Totally. It's
Okay.
wonderful.
So that's where you are a human being, is with those 300 cells connecting the gray matter with the consciousness. So if those 300 cells are damaged or injured through an accident or deliberately damaged, the person becomes a human animal. And when they were doing these experiments on the survivors years ago, as they were trying to discover all of these things, they made botches. And the survivors, they would, by accident, go too far. And the person they would not be able to use them. They would be like a human animal. So because
when you say human animal, do you mean an animal or a vegetable?
A human, but that only has animal instincts.
Oh, I see.
You with me?
Wow.
Because they don't have a brain that's functioning.
Yeah.
So they can learn like animals learn. The clock, the bell. Pavlov with the bell and the dogs.
Yeah.
But they can never learn like a man learns again.
Wow.
So that's huge. That's huge. So there are some of the people that we worked with a number of years ago, they'd gone too far with them. And, they really had damaged them. And everybody could see, but this person's not normal. And so they couldn't really use them, in serious assignments. And so because the brain wasn't functioning like it should. All right, the brain has a separate energy, the mind has a separate energy source from the brain. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
So
yeah.
that's why they're so different. And you must understand, what's my mind? That's what makes me human. So my mind is connected to my spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's where my intelligence comes from. And I've got gray matter. And that's got another energy source, and that I know is glucose. I've got to give my brain glucose. I've got to have sugar, to get my brain going. So if I'm feeling a bit down, then I take something that will just lift up my sugar levels, and I'm okay again. But the mind has a different energy source. Okay, so now I want to we're going to start moving to Neshamah now. So we've got the brain. And then we've got the consciousness of the brain, which is your prefrontal cortex. Now look how small. The consciousness is just that little rim, the yellow rim around the outside. That's so small, your conscious world is. The majority of your life and your world is subconscious. So if you've got memories, trauma, bad stuff loaded onto your subconscious mind, because remember, you work like a computer. You have stored everything that has ever happened to you, good or bad, you've stored it. And it's stored in the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is just that little outside room. Then you've got, inside the subconscious mind, you've got the soul. The soul is also connected to your mind, will, emotions. All right, so that's what forms the soul. And inside the soul, you've got your spirit man. But now inside the spirit, and this is what a lot of counselors don't know, inside the spirit, you've got a part called the Neshamah, which is the image of God, where the Bible says we are made in the image of God. That is Neshamah. That is the Neshamah. So I'm going to just wrap up with this for today. I don't know how your time is going. You must let me know how.
I think let's wrap this up, and then from next week or 2 weeks we'll get onto the SRA stuff. Yeah, this is really amazing. Very, very interesting.
So the mind-body connection is very close as well.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't take the mind out and beat it, because it's definitely a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
So the mind is spiritual. And it's important that I understand when it comes to mind control and programming, I need to understand the difference between my mind and my gray matter.
Yeah.
And that it's got a different energy source, and that my mind is connected to my spirit. And so if my spirit is connected to entities, that means it's going to affect my mind.
Sure.
That's going to give me negative energy. All right.
And that's how they would then, when they, especially doing the SRA trauma on the kids, they would then create that these entities connect to the mind.
Yes.
And through their trauma-based control.
Yeah.
And that's how they would then get people to.
That's how they put the chains on. Yeah.
Yes, sell the soul, so to speak, right? Is that what it would be called? Selling the soul.
Yeah, it is. It's also the person that sells their soul willingly. They give themselves willingly to the cult, like your Hollywood people, those they would sell themselves willingly because for power, for money, for fame, whatever it is that the agreement is. And then when they give themselves willingly, it's like they want that. Chantel, they want it because they copy everything that's in the Bible. Yeah. They hate God. And because Jesus gave himself willingly, he gave himself, it wasn't the Romans that nailed him to the cross. He went and gave himself willingly. Yeah, he offered himself as a sacrifice. And that's why your top royals and the top survivors that they are programming, they get to a point in their life where they have to give themselves willingly as a sacrifice. So your top leaders of the world won't just die from a natural death, old age. It doesn't work that way.
So they'll tell us that, right?
There's a ritual.
Tell us that.
Oh,
yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And then that's their way of being the sacrificial lamb. What a load of nonsense from their part.
That's it. Yeah. Oh. So there's a ritual at their death. It is planned on a day. There will be a ritual. There will be the top 13 witches or warlocks or whatever, how they arrange that ritual. And then there will be somebody who will give the death blow. And when they give the death blow, then the person, there's the spirit that comes, the whole thing about the spirit that continues to rule from the grave. And, we've got William of Orange that said he would rule from the grave. And that is what's on the plaque of many of these royals, that they will rule from the grave. So that is why you find that there's still activity going on afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay, so it's your mind is spiritual, but you can affect the mind by what you do to the body. And that's why when they traumatize the body, it's going to affect the mind. Sure. So that's why it works so close, like it's very closely connected. All right, so next time we're going to go to Neshamah. So let me just exit here and stop sharing. There we go. So Chantal, that opened up something for you.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for that. I'm really looking forward to what follows, because it just makes, it's so, and the way you've actually put it is so succinct, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of our viewers are going to get a heck of a lot out of this discussion, not so much of a discussion, but your presentation around that this evening. So I want to just say thank you, Amanda. That was amazing, really.
Oh, that's such a blessing. No, I really, that the Neshamah part is so important to be able to help effectively, to be able to minister effectively when you're dealing with so many broken people.
Absolutely.
So I trust this has put some foundations down so that we can go forward from there.
Absolutely. I definitely believe that it has. And I look forward, because I just think whether people are working with survivors and overcomers or not, just for the general public watching this to understand the trauma that these people go through. And I'm not just talking SRA survivors. I'm talking about someone who's been raped or traumatized. You know, people can deal with what they can deal with. That's what I've understood. You know, we have different ways of dealing with things and different extents of which we can deal with things. That's certainly been my experience in life. So I think that just by understanding what these people have been through, and when someone has suppressed an emotion or an experience from childhood, that has been a very traumatic thing for that person. So we need to deal with them with a lot of compassion, and a lot of understanding. And very often, I think, and what I've also noticed is that a lot of people have themselves been traumatized and don't even know it. So I think these are the kind of things that are going to trigger that in people as well, to deal with their own traumas. I think we've all been traumatized to an extent, some a lot worse than others, but I really think that there's a great big opportunity for all of us to heal, and for all of us to understand we need to just be compassionate and gentle and loving and kind with one another. Absolutely.
And also the size of the subconscious mind, you can think how much you pack in there.
Absolutely.
Through the years. And that just to, then affects you.
Absolutely.
That affects you. So your whole life.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying, when we now start seeing people and the way they react in situations. And, this is what in the last 20 years that I've been doing what I'm doing, I've learned to understand when people react in certain ways, it's not coming from nowhere, to step back and observe what that might be, and now also just noticing when people have a reaction all the time to, let's say, the same thing or a similar thing, we can stop judging and saying, well, that person is cuckoo and loopy. We can go, hang on, there's something deep at play. And as you say, the subconscious mind that has the ability to store so much, so much, and trauma and neglect and abuse and abandonment and rejection. And, whether you've been physically harmed or healed or just emotionally, I think it has a very similar effect on the person at the end of the day. Wow.
And so what just to wrap up, what the Neshamah part does is, in counseling, if the person cannot remember, then you work with the Neshamah, because the Neshamah knows everything.
Yes, absolutely.
And you are able to get to the memory through working with Neshamah. It's just a tool, that God has given. So it's amazing.
Beautiful. Created in the image of God. And when we tap back into that consciousness and that understanding, we understand the healing available to us all. Really. Wow. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, beautiful lady. And I so look forward to seeing you. Hey, I might even want to grab you back in a week's time, but don't worry, I won't. I know you're very busy. So I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time again, Amanda. What a beautiful, fascinating conversation. So, wow, thank you so much. And thank you so much to our beautiful viewers out there watching this. I'm pretty sure you've all gotten as much as what I have out of tonight's session or today's session, wherever you are in the world. So yes, if you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. Find us on Facebook, BitChute, Twitter, Telegram, and Odyssey. We are on a bit of a strikeout at the moment because we were naughty with Amanda and Dr. Zandre the other day, speaking truth and sharing truth, but of course the current powers that be don't like us doing that. So you're going to find us for the moment on the back channels, the BitChute and Odyssey, and we're going to post this on our solutions channel as well, and we'll be putting it on the main channel when we're up and running again, which will be in about a week or 10 days from now. God bless you, beautiful woman. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Mwah. Take good care of yourselves. And until next time. Bye-bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius. Oh, Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And we have with us back our lovely Ms. Czebotar, Jessie Czebotar, as you all know her by now. And we're going to be chatting about what the emotions: despair, agony, hopelessness. I think these are very important topics to address, because I feel with where we're at right now in a planetary, just on the planet as a human species, there's so much going on that is really getting us to feel absolutely awful. And these truly are vibrations that keep us completely hell bent, if that makes any sense. So, think about despair, agony, hopelessness. Wow. It's that endless wormhole of blackness where there just doesn't seem to be light. So I think, as a healer as well, I've spoken to many people over the years about this, but I find it more and more prevalent now as well. And, when we were, earlier on, when we were chatting on Aquarius Rising Africa, we were talking about the sexualization of our children and what they are doing to our kids in so many ways, whether it's weaponizing them for the military, whether it's weaponizing them just to screw with our minds and, create this whole transgenderism, because you can see it's so obvious where that's going, right? In terms of that. So as parents, as fellow beings who are really concerned about this sort of stuff, Jess, what is your take on dealing with this? Because one kind of seems to feed the other. So how do we flip that around, and at these really dark, low times, flip that around and get the joy, despite the despair that there is? Find the peace despite the agony that there is. Find the light, the hope, despite the hopelessness. So how do we counteract this?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot there to unpack. And the first thing we have to understand is, I so appreciate that you said that the two go hand in hand together. And scripture uses just a little bit different words, but they mean pretty much the same thing. It talks about, in Isaiah 58, the chains of wickedness. And really that depression is, it's a chain. And how do we get that chain? It's because somewhere in there, either we are experiencing or we're witnessing this weightiness that comes from the wickedness that's around us. Or it could even be wickedness we're participating in. But, that depression, that, it just is like that heavy, weighty chain that holds us down. And we seem like, we feel like we just can't get up from underneath it. And added to it then is the oppression, which I like that word. I like it combined with the agony, because in that passage in Isaiah 58, it talks about how that oppression is like a yoke, like how they used to yoke the oxen or the horses. They would put this big, heavy yoke on their shoulders that they had to carry in order to pull the plows or tilt the fields. And that really is what that agony is like. It's like a yoke of heaviness that we carry. And the good news is that we're not bound to either. It's not a hopeless situation. We have someone who is able to break those chains that are connected to us and lift up that yoke of oppression. But it's that point of getting there that's part of the hard part, because
Yeah.
how you get there is not typically what we would think. We're talking spiritual things, not physical. And scripture tells us the solution for those things as well. Is how do we get there?
So what would be your advice to take a first step? Let's say someone is really feeling suicidal at this point. And God forbid they should be all alone and maybe listening to this right now. What would you say to that person in this moment to get them to turn that around where they can see the light, for even if it's just a moment in time?
Yeah, suicide definitely is a heavy attack from the enemy. And, it's one that I've walked through a lot with a lot of veterans, in particular. And I can remember, being empathetic. I was able to sense that spiritual heaviness. And it feels just like you have all these darts or arrows constantly going at your mind, telling you to do stuff, to take your life, to, um, harm yourself. And yet you have that inner struggle of what the heck is going through my mind? Like, I don't want to do this. And sometimes, it's that utter hopelessness. I've seen vets with the extreme PTSD who have had, where maybe in their situation, they're the only survivor. Um, and they earnestly wish that they had gone with the rest of their troop, that they weren't here. And I know many survivors that, some of us, the trauma has been so deep. I've heard others express that they don't want to be here. And that's a really difficult place to be. Um, but here's the truth, is that you are here in this moment. And that means that God has a plan for you. And God has amazing things planned for your life. And even in spite of whatever you've suffered in the past, whatever trauma you've gone through, um, that's the first step, is realizing that you're here for a reason. And maybe that reason is one other person, who needs to hear your story, in order for them to be able to pull out, or to be able to, survive in this life. And so, it's kind of like that candle that lights another candle. We have a choice to make. If we choose not to keep our candle lit, then that means that somebody else who desperately needs their candle lit is not going to have it lit. And what if you knew that it was hundreds of people who were going to, be lit off of your candle? So there's a huge impact each life has. And so, I encourage people who are struggling with that, how do we begin to make that shift? It really starts with two things. One, lifting your eyes up. Acknowledging that you are not in control. You can't help yourself. You need someone to help pull you up out of that pit of darkness. And who's going to do that? The Lord. He doesn't leave us in a pit. His word says in Jeremiah 29:11, I know. He knows the thoughts and the plans that he has for you, to give you a future and a hope. And, it's not just so you continue in this downward spiral. What are his thoughts and his plans for you? To give you a future and a hope, something to live for, something good, something, that you desire. And you can look at my life as an example. There was so much evil, so much trauma, and yet when I lifted up my eyes and said, Lord, I need your help. Look at where he's brought me. He's brought me to the place where now I'm able to seek justice for the crimes that were committed against me. So that's the first part, is lifting your eyes up. The second is praise. Scripture talks about in the book of Isaiah that praise breaks the chains of depression and the yoke of oppression, that heaviness that's over us. So I encourage you, just put on some praise music. An individual I really like on YouTube is Kyle Lovett. He's got some great instrumentals that are really encouraging. And with his music, I sense a lot of breakthrough. It's very powerful music. So it takes you from that place of where you're kind of feeling down to you're like, oh, yeah, I'm ready for war now. So,
Yeah.
but
Music
find
is
some good
amazing, isn't it?
breakthrough music. Yeah.
Oh, music just has a way. Well, we know by now music can obviously be used in both ways. So just really beautiful music. There is just so nothing better than heart music, where you really feel the heartstrings connect to the sound. It's amazing. I would definitely second that, Jess. I think music is such a powerful tool for healing. Absolutely.
Yeah, in my hard times growing up, when I was small, I just started singing out. I mean, I wish I had a recorder for all the songs that I sang, because it's like you never remember those words, but when you start expressing yourself or singing or dancing or listening to music, it really breaks that depression and the hopelessness. For me, it did in my life. I mean, I just started singing, and I would confess, testify, it was God just singing through me. It's just like God giving me those words. It's just, I felt that connection. I wouldn't say even God giving it to me. It's like connecting to that source of the pain or the hopelessness or the despair, connecting with that, and then just singing about it, expressing it, and then suddenly it just lifts it up. Definitely. I will
See, why are we
testify to
talking?
that.
We need to be singing this show, Chantel.
Yes. I believe that.
I have to tell you, I was a little bit cross with God when I was born. A little bit. Because I really love music and dancing and singing. I've got the worst voice ever. The worst.
But you can make sounds and you can clap, right? So
I'll do the boogie. I'll do the boogie.
And dance and
do the mommy.
Well, Chantel, then maybe I should do some sessions with you. I can teach you how to sing. Anybody can be taught how to sing. There is some tools, so I can show you.
I sing in the shower, and I'm very happy singing in the shower.
It's about using what you've got.
Exactly, in the shower. I'm very happy for that. I feel a lot. I'm just, you know what else can you?
I'm happy for that. In there, Chantel, and then we'll go from there.
I must just say, it was so funny. A couple of years ago, while I was traveling and I was working and I was staying with a friend of mine, and I would get up in the morning and shower, and I'd sing in the shower. I would sing in the shower and I'd wake her up every morning. She never said anything. And she said afterwards, after I'd left, she said, I really miss your singing in the shower every morning.
Oh, that's funny. And you're like, oh.
You're like, oh my gosh, you poor creature. That's awful.
I had a great story. I had a...
Why? Sorry. I just wanted to say, it's not how you sing, is why you sing that touches people's souls.
Well, that's what I feel about myself.
I had one little old lady that that I had to visit on hospice, and for a whole year, I never ever saw her awake. She never interacted with me. I would just go in and I would sing to her, right? And I seriously thought she was like unconscious. And the one day I go in there, and after a year and her eyes are open, I was like, oh my gosh, she like woke up. And the staff were like laughing at me. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, isn't this amazing? I was like, you know, she's been unconscious all these years. And they're like, oh no, she just likes to take her nap when you visit. And I was like, oh, I never ever saw her awake. It was so funny. Well, then she passed away, and they're like, oh, would you visit, you know, the lady in the room next to her? And so when I went, the staff, like, you know, they just like introduced me, and they're like, oh, here's Chaplain Jessie. She's here to sing to you. And I was like, well, if she would like it, I'm more than happy to do that, but maybe that's not what she wants, And the little old lady, she's got this gruff voice and she's like, "Oh, just sing already." And it was like, I'll never forget that.
Did she love you singing? So you obviously did sing.
She
must have
did,
loved
yeah. Actually, it was funny. She was one, it turned out into the most beautiful story, actually. There was a song that at the time I had just, I guess in a way, written, but really it was the Lord had dictated this song to me called Beautiful Bride. And anyway, I would sing that to her and she loved it. She'd be like, "Sing it again." And she never told me why. She would just say, "Sing it again," So I would sing this song to her, and then when she passed away, her family said, "Will you sing a couple of the songs she was always talking about you singing?" And they're like, "So we know she really loved your songs, and would you sing a couple?" And the Lord immediately brought that one to my mind, but I was like, "Lord, this is a funeral. I can't sing about a beautiful bride at a funeral," And so I argued all week with the Lord. I even sang it to my staff at work to get their opinions. And by the time I was done singing, all the staff were crying, and they're like, "No, no, no, you got to sing that song." And I'm like, "I just don't know," but I did. And so the day I went for the funeral, she had I think it was like 30 grandsons, and they were all sitting in the front row, all high-level business guys. And I was like, "Oh, great. I'm going to be singing about a beautiful bride to all these, high-level business guys." And so as I start singing and stuff, they all start bawling. And I was like, "Oh no, this is really bad." But anyway, after we were all done, they all came up together and they're like, "Thank you so much for singing that song." They were like, she had the most amazing marriage, and that was something that was very special to her, was marriage, and that's what she had taught each of them, was how to have good marriages. And so they're like, there could not have been a better song that displayed her heart. And the fact that it goes into the heavenlies, it talks about, um, our marriage with the Lord after that, we're there forever in heaven with him. And they're like, we couldn't have picked a better song. So I learned not to argue with the Lord, that he knows what's best. But
Absolutely. Wow. But that is amazing. And, as you're speaking, it's just making me realize more and more, for those of us who have family who are in depression or having a really hard time, visit, sing, bring a nice tune, send them a music link, something like that. And that's, I must say, what I often do with my friends, if I know, or even clients and students, if I know, there's something relevant, I'll often say, listen to the words of that song. It speaks to you,
yeah.
And so there's so many beautiful ways you can actually incorporate that. You don't have to be there yourself. If you are living on opposite sides of the globe, remember, love has no boundaries. Just the love, the thought, the energy you'd be sending that person, not trying to bewitch them, please. Love cannot bewitch. You just open up your heart and you just be a channel for your own love, for God's love, and just know that person feels it, because they do. They really, really do. Maybe it takes a little while for them to feel something or register something, but their spirit knows, and God knows that you're sending love. And, if this
It can
person's
be even a letter, just a letter expressing your thoughts, or sharing a joke, or, what's going on with your day. We're in a society that is so easily disconnected from each other. And people, especially after they retire and they age, they definitely need that connection. I can remember one of the elderly men that I went to visit. It was so hilarious. He was an old, we'll just say like old school Spanish gentleman, where they have the honor, and but at the same time they're totally flirtatious, right? And so he was a woman wooer, but not like the type where then he would do anything beyond his words, right? But it would be so funny because, when I'd go up to visit, he'd hold his hand out and you'd think, oh, okay, he's just going to shake my hand. And so the first time I can remember, the first time I went to go shake his hand, and next thing I know, he grabs my hand and up my arm, he's kissing. And I'm like, oh my, well, hello, And then he got done and he looks at me and he's like, more chocolate ice cream. I was like, oh, want me to bring you more ice cream? Okay. That was the whole point. It was so hilarious, but he was
So
he was 106 years old. Get that? 106
wow.
and still, kissing women. But anyway. But think about that. It's like
I don't think they ever stop, Jess. I think really, I don't think men ever stop appreciating women. And I think, and hey, lucky for us. I love the fact that a man when he's 102, and I so identify with that in Thailand. When I'm in Thailand, you get, these old guys are on their little motorbikes with sidecars, and they're old, these old guys, okay? And understand I'm 5'9" or 1.75 meters tall. I'm tall, okay? They first would probably take me to under my boob, but would they flirt their asses off with me? They did not even give me a chance. I was like, yeah, I like it when grandpa flirts.
So funny. But it's such a great thing. Like when we're depressed, the first thing we need to do is part of that lifting your head up is to reconnect.
Yeah.
Be purposeful about it. Stop thinking only on yourself and think about who else is out there who's depressed or who's lonely, and start making connections, because that's where you're going to break through. Through that is when you even if it's volunteering at an elderly place. I mean, we've had people that even their extent, like they would go to those places, the nursing homes and stuff, but they would make goodies, or they would buy like bags of candy, or bring in coffee certificates, things like that to the staff, and they would just be like, I'm just here, I know you, I want to support you guys. You guys are caregivers all day long, and I just want to encourage you. So there's so many different things we can do to start getting engaged, and that's where you're going to start feeling that lift from, those feelings. And you're not going to get it just by continuing to stay in a little hole or in the dark. You got to break loose from that and start. It starts by being intentional. Look at what's around you in your community. Are there nursing homes? Are there schools? Even pools. We had one guy who would bring every Friday, he would bring cookies and goodies to the staff at the therapy pool, and would sit there and just talk to them for an hour, And maybe talking's not your thing, then you can maybe look and see if you have a police department, fire department close by, offer to buy pizza every Friday night, and just tell them how much you appreciate them with a note. You don't have to do it verbally, but just those little things, people start to look forward to it.
It's so true what you're saying. And I love the idea of what you're saying is like, buy your cops a pizza tonight, and just help them understand they are appreciated by our community. Because let's just think of the cops. I mean, that must be a really crappy job for most guys, because you putting
especially
yourself
night shift. Night shift's a long shift.
Exactly. But not only that, you're getting up knowingly putting your life in danger every single day, whether you're a desk clerk or a guy on the road or whatever. Any police work is dangerous. You don't know who's going to be coming in there at whatever. So cops generally don't have a good reputation in amongst the community for all sorts of reasons, but not all the cops are bad, right? So if we can show appreciation for what they do as a community, and you're sort of going, hey guys, just want to pop in here and say thank you, and there's a pizza, and off you go. They'll go, wow, that was amazing. And they'll talk about it to their friends, and they'll talk about it to their families, you know, that sort of thing. And I think it's really great to be able to do that. Small acts of kindness for yourself as well. Maybe if you don't have the ability to go and spend time with someone, then if you do have some extra bucks, then buy something, you know. But time is always a really good thing, you know. Go to the animal shelter if you don't have animals. Take them for a walk on a Sunday. You know, wow, those animals would so appreciate that. You would so appreciate that. And who knows what bonds you're going to build. You know, these are really little things like that we can all take part in. But what I also wanted to say is that when we're dealing with people with depression, it takes perseverance. I'm a healer. I've been dealing with people for a long time. I understand what it takes to break through certain conditions and conditioning. Depression is one of those. A depressed person can be a very nasty tongued person, and they can have a very quick lash or reject you or whatever, because that's their own fear of abandonment or rejection. So I want to just say, if you're dealing with someone who's quite badly depressed and they lash out at you and they are rude or they say stuff, don't give up on them. They try 2, 3, 4 times even if you need to. Eventually, okay, I understand. If it really gets to the point where you just can't anymore, then absolutely. But don't give up on someone who's depressed and lonely and angry and heartsore after the first visit. Well, you see, I told you they didn't appreciate me. I went all the way out there to do this. That's the last thing the person, all that person is feeling is their own sense of worthlessness, their own sense of isolation, and they just want to hurt anyone in their path because that's how they're feeling. And that's what happens when people haven't learned how to deal with emotions yet. But kindness can teach them that. You know, when we are consistent and say, I know this is not really you talking to me. I know that your heart is, you know, it's one of your sort of, you know, what do you call it? Resistances.
Right.
That, you know.
We had with our, the resistance, that's a key thing. And we had, you know, one of our chaplains that had a great idea. It, you know, when he got that resistance, and it really worked well for him. So the one day I decided to try it too, not purposely. I had no intention at first, but I walked in on a visit, and this, you know, gruffy old guy, it was like, hi, I'm the chaplain. I wanted to, you know, come and check in. He's like, I don't need no stinking chaplain. And when he said it, I mean, it was just so anti, right? And I had such a frustrating day. Like, I mean, I was like at my limit, and I just like grabbed my badge and I was like, great. I didn't want to be a chaplain today anyway. And I kind of just was snarky back, right? And he busted up laughing. And I said, you know, I'm like, how about just a regular visit, you and me? And he's like, sure, whatever fits your fancy. Have a seat. And we ended up having this great conversation. And both of us just venting, stressing our anger. You know, it was like, what a crappy day. Like, that was what we could agree on, you know. And sometimes you just have to meet them where they're at and say, you're right, that, you know, today's just a crappy day. Today stinks.
Exactly.
And let's both talk about it, you know.
Exactly. So there really is that, you know, and I think I just love the idea of those of us who understand these things. This is the time to step up, and this is the time to actually act on that. You know, I can't say that enough times, because I know also us on this channel, Jess, we feel the intensification energetically and spiritually long before it's actually happening. you know, and that's why I said to guys, gear up. Things are getting crazy out there. And then suddenly, you know, it starts getting crazy. I don't think we need to wait until things get crazy. I think the last 3 years have been so crazy anyway, so that we can understand that there are others that need help right now. There are animals that need help. There are children that need help. So what do you have to offer this world? That is your gift. You know, God gives us so many gifts. And, you know, the way I see it, gifts are something we're meant to share. So how do we share our gift? What is the gift you have? And how do you go about doing that? And if that means going to your local church to see if you can counsel, or I don't know what is available to you, you know, your community center, women's center, men's center, whatever it is, you know, I think there's a way that we can all do this and make a difference in another's world. I really do. And mostly our own world as well, because that is healing for us. Yeah.
I think humans, we crave connection. And no matter how much we can deny connection, as soon as we don't have it, we fall into places like despair, agony, and hopelessness.
Yeah.
Because you're that abandonment, or whatever it is, it's just that breaking of connection. And that's what puts us down into that spiral. Connecting to God's source, connecting to your mother, connecting to a relationship, connecting to a job, whatever the connection is that you feel is broken, that spirals us down to those places. And we just need to realize, just reach out and connect again in any way or form that you can.
If you guys watch I done 3 interviews over the past 3 weeks with Alice Parola. I really want to encourage you guys to watch those interviews. They are incredible. Alice is a viewer of ours on the channel and has been since our very first show with Jessie. And I know we often speak about that. She's been a great supporter for us. She's had borderline personality disorder, and came out in recent years. And, you know, again, mental disorders are something that people are not speaking about. It's kind of a label. It's something that, you know, if you've got cancer, never mind if you've been smoking 400 cigarettes a day, but if you get cancer and everyone's, oh, shame, you poor thing, as they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Somehow, but when you are diagnosed with a mental disorder, then you kind of, oh my gosh, that one's a bit cuckoo, don't go near them, right? So there is that label. So I want to really encourage you guys to watch those interviews. First, I did one with her on her own, then with her daughter, Nikki, who grew up with a mother with borderline personality disorder, and her husband, Joe, last night. And I just get goosebumps thinking about this, because how that family has healed. I really want to encourage you guys to go and watch those interviews. How it is such a brilliant example of how a family pulls together and the tools they've used to pull together. And Joe was actually talking last night about Alice's, because she comes from an abused father. Her father abused her, and the sense of abandonment that a child feels in those situations. And this I will tell you for real, every single survivor or overcomer I've worked with has had the same thing in their own way. The abandonment from a family member, a very strong family member. The trauma that abandonment creates as a child growing up as an adult is exactly what causes these mental disorders, right? So rather than looking at the disorder or the disorder, look at what has caused it. And number one cause of that is abandonment. And they have such fear of abandonment. And it's beautiful, because Alice will say now that her and her husband slow dance in the kitchen. That's something they do. That's one of the ways he makes her feel safe. And he's also had to relearn to love his wife again and not a mental patient. And the daughter has had to Nikki has had to put down very strict boundaries with her mom. But then, obviously, from there, the family reuniting and having a beautiful granddaughter as well. I want to encourage you guys to watch that, because that is probably one of the most healing revelations that I have come across in a family. So
beautiful.
it is such a lovely story, you know, and how they stick together and where they're at now. And Alice has also got her Telegram groups, and, you know, she's got a website. She's busy writing a book. It's really, really, really beautiful. So these are the things, you know, when we understand it, knowledge is power. We have the knowledge to know what to do when someone else is in trouble. It might just you be going to the shop and something in your mind says, go to the shop now and buy milk. Get in your car and buy milk. You never know who could be at the shop at that moment that would need you, or you would need them. These are the things this is how God speaks to us, you know, and this is the things that we need to I think, adhere to as well. I just think it's all about compassion.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I encourage people to watch that too. That, you know, such great stories of healing journeys, or even how people have, you know, navigated through those rough waters. And we need to hear stuff like that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's so relevant because it's happening in, I mean, most of the households in the world right now. We have dysfunctional households everywhere in this world, and it's such a common. Their story actually reflects so much that we all go through, and you don't need to be satanic, ritually abused, or go through that kind of stuff in order to feel almost the same disconnect. So,
yeah, exactly.
Like you said earlier in the previous, how we restore, how do we rebuild in everything that's destroying? It's all coming back to ourselves and restoring within ourselves, in our family. So how do we stop this evil controlling the world? Just start by tolerating your family members, trying to understand each other. Let's work through it. Let's do it. And for that, we need to connect with God. We need to connect with, we need to be aligned, and we need to be quiet. Like you said, realign and see how God's will can help us get back to our own safe space in that sense. But yeah, we need to those 3 interviews I highly recommend. I also, everybody that I speak to us, it's amazing. It's a really amazing 3 interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I say, you know, this is the kind of stuff that's occurring, not occurring, but this is what we need to be able to hear examples of, because this is what people need. And honestly, you know, let's think, we understand now everything in this world is frequency and energy, right? And you can't necessarily touch it. But when we look at what the Lucys want, they want pain, they want suffering, which is why they create division, they create strife, they create poverty, they create death, they create endless suffering. It's that energy of suffering that they feed off. So without us even realizing it, when we suffer unnecessarily, we are creating food for that. Right? So it is up to us then to not suffer. Well, how can I suffer when my husband just died? I agree. I've also experienced death. It's not something nice. Of course, you got to go through the phases of grief. But what I'm saying is, when you have a healthy support system, and you have a healthy friendship, or a healthy pastor, or a healthy psychologist that can help you through it, of course, no one is saying you mustn't go through the grief, but it's how you deal with that. We have to work with the stuff that is holding us back. If you are 700 pounds overweight and you feel stuck in life, then I want to say to you, I'm not judging that about you. I'm just saying, maybe it's time to look at things and how you can feel yourself moving forward. And I want to say this, Jess, as well. I got into trouble the other day, and I don't even know if you know, but you took criticism because of something I said. When I said Jesus came here to show us how to save ourselves. This is what I mean. I'm not saying that, I'm not blaspheming, please, All I'm saying is it's not a physical person that's coming to say, come, you must do this, off you go. It's not going to happen that way. Jesus has given us the tools. And these are the tools we use and we apply. And this is the stuff that saves us. So when we deal with our despair, when we deal with our agony, when we deal with our depression, because you see, something in the way we've dealt with life has caused our depression. Something in the way that we've treated our bodies has caused our ill health. Often, sometimes we're born with it. I'm not talking about that. That's a different story. I'm just talking about the self-inflicted things. So when we realize what we need to do, there's that little voice that speaks in our heart, or that verse you read in the Bible, that for you to stand up and make peace with your mother, or whatever it might be. Follow that prompt. Yeah. Because that is God speaking to you, showing you how to rise up in your own spirit, in your own being, in your own health. That's what it is. So it's like really us taking responsibility for the healing that we need to do in our own lives.
And I think in that context, we were speaking of healing as well, not salvation. So, I think that people took that out of context, but definitely, the Lord gives us tools that, we need to take action in our faith. Faith is belief in action. So, it's not just believing what, that you're going to get out of the situation or that the Lord's going to help you through. He requires an action with that, that you have to be the one to step out. You have to be the one to get up out of bed, get moving, and start making that difference and that change. But he's going to be there with you every step of the way, walking you through. And in the end, who gets the glory for that? He does, because he lifts us up out of that. He gives us new opportunities. He opens the doorways. And it's that mutual relationship that we have with him,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that trust. And it's that invisible trust, because it's not something you can hold their hand and say, okay, hang on, come here, haul out your credit card. I need this. It's not, it's not at all. It's really, and it's on another level that one has to trust your heart for being God, and that takes time, and that takes, but we have to get to that place, and it's a bite-sized chunks thing. We really have to get to it. And it's really just the first point is acknowledging it and writing. We've spoken about that before. Once we start acknowledging what we need to do, then take your book and say, okay, today I need to do this. Today I need to do that. I am astounded how many people can't write and have such blockages against writing. There's a reason that you have a blockage against writing or expressing yourself or journaling, because something in you is just holding on and it's making you sick, actually. That's the stuff that you don't want to write about, that you must write about. Write a letter to the person and never give it to them. That's just your therapy. Or if you want to give it to them, fantastic, then do. Get it out. Burn it afterwards if you need to, But there's, writing is such a healing thing. Writing a letter to someone, as you say, a birthday card that you haven't done before. It's just getting the energy moving. And then taking one tiny thing at a day. Today I must clean my kitchen drawers. Put that down. Yeah. Or I must go and sort my house out at the bank. Whatever it is, it could be that or that. Do the doable things and tick them off when you've done them. And that's how you start. It's that really the bite-sized chunks way of going about doing things that is not overwhelming, because life right now is overwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah. And even if you have to set time limits, if you're really struggling, set a time limit of a half hour you're going to work on it. Then take a break and maybe try to do another half hour in a little bit. I love that. It really is just bite-sized chunks, making it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in Afrikaans, there's a saying, no eet ons met lang tande. And I love Afrikaans because it's such an expressive thing. You know, it's like, now, that means now we're eating with long teeth, which means I really am not hungry anymore. So imagine these long teeth in your mouth and you just try to eat yours, like, no, it's not working. So, you know, it's that kind of thing. Just take it one tiny bite at a time, that you don't feel like you've got long teeth in your mouth, that you just can't anymore. So do it in a way that is doable. And the most important thing is to decide, make the decision. You know, so many people sit on the fence and, well, tomorrow this, no, okay, maybe not. And you end up procrastinating. That is the most frustrating thing, makes human beings the most angry at themselves, actually, is the constant procrastination that we see. So make the decision to create the change and act on it. So, you know, when you feel it, act on it. When you feel it, act on it. That's what gets the momentum going, I think. Is there anything you have with that?
Definitely. You know, or if you even have to, just put, you know, make up little pieces of paper, but what you have to do, put it all in a hat and pick one, you know. If you can't decide, find a way to make the decision, and or have someone else pick it, and just be committed that you're going to follow through with whatever's picked, you know.
And that really does bring us to the place of compassion, really, because when we've understood that in ourselves, we can then acknowledge when someone else is in a place of despair. It allows us not to react to their despair or their isolation. We can then be more loving in the way that we do.
I wanted to say, like, with the music, like, we all spoke about the music and our songs, and music can lift us out of this world, which is so powerful because music is God's only way of wanting to speak. So when compassion actually helps us hearing the song of each other's hearts. We all have a song playing in our hearts. And the way we express that song, it could either be through writing or talking or giving something or whatever the way is you're trying to share your song. We need to come to that place where we all find our little song inside of ourselves, and also be quiet enough to hear each other's songs. And through compassion, that's how you're going to hear somebody's heart. That's how you're going to understand where this person is coming from. And only to get to that place is to actually to actually starting to listen to your own song, having compassion and love to your song. So we all need each other in this, especially when we go through this darkness and chaos and destruction in this world. So listen to each other's songs, try to sing along instead of everybody singing their own tune. Anyways, I just want to share that.
Good. Well, I don't know, Jess, is there anything else you still have to say on this topic today?
No, I think we've said it a lot today.
Well,
so I think it's just helpful to reiterate. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, somebody asked if you could sing that song that you spoke about earlier.
I could probably sing the first chorus. It goes, beautiful bride, won't you keep your light shining? That's the first line.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And also somebody suggested, I think it was Courtney, she said you should create a playlist on YouTube with beautiful music that you can share.
I do have some of those things, I think, but
on your personal YouTube.
Yeah, I do. I do have stuff up there, but
okay, cool.
Yeah, I've got a lot of the kind of love it stuff on there, but yeah. I'll see if I can work on something for that.
Okay, guys and girls, we say thank you so much for joining us again on this beautiful Wednesday. All good things need to come to an end for the moment. So we wish you a beautiful evening, a beautiful day, a beautiful afternoon, wherever in the world you are. We're going into evening here already, so it's nearly bedtime for me again. And until next week, Wednesday, we'll see you, Jess. And hang on, we've got book club this Sunday, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jessie, you see, it's the Patreon book club happening on Sunday. And that is at, I think it's 3 p.m. our time, right? Can we just...
I think 9, did we have 9 a.m. my time?
It's
So
9 Eastern, so it's 4 o'clock.
4 for us. So it's 4 p.m. yeah. And then Jessie will be doing, we'll be starting our second book club. Very, very excited. So we're going to be, Mona, you can maybe just post the link if you don't mind. And then we'll be seeing Jessie on Sunday again for Patreon Book Club. Really looking forward to that. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys and girls, God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If this broke something open, if you recognized yourself in the testimony, if your body responded before your mind understood, the next step isn't more information. It's pattern work. Decode what your nervous system built to survive. Dismantle the story that keeps it running. Reorganize through the body and choose, actually choose, from the person you're becoming, not from the pattern that formed when you were too small to choose. That's Solutions. Link below. The body is the record. Let's listen.